Okay, so in a closed system, or our universe, energy cannot be created or destroyed. There's the same amount of energy all the time. It was at the beginning, will be at the end. Matter is just a complex arrangement of energy. So when energy, or when matter becomes energy, its value remains the same. So when you burn oil, its total value of energy contained in that oil is the same when it's oil as when it's fire and heat and light and everything else created by burning it. Now this applies to the entire universe, which, as previously stated, is a closed system. Now, in the multiverse, which is the theoretical everything that could possibly be, this is somehow exempt from the principle of conservation of energy. In that you multiply, if the universe divides in two because of two possibilities, you've effectively doubled the entire energy value of the universe in an instant. Now, the theoretical model of the multiverse is that every possibility exists, meaning in every moment, the entire energy value of the universe is just multiplied infinitely. It's just this ballooning mass of energy without end, without limits. But little things always follow a similar model to the bigger things. So if the universe has a conservation of energy and a limited amount of power within it, and which cannot grow or shrink, then the multiverse should also have a limit as well. It's probably a larger limit, but it should still have a limit. So now, if you think of the multiverse as this big bubble, and inside of it is a bunch of little bubbles, now, as these little bubbles divide because of possibilities and causality divergencies, it would basically start pushing against the walls of that bubble, and then it would either need to expand the bubble to accommodate the growing amount, or little soap bubbles inside of it would just start to merge together. And that's where my theory of conservation of multiversal energy basically ties in with the Mandela effect. Is this forcing universes to merge together to conserve space results in these inconsistencies within the resulting universes. This kind of ties into another theory I have, where there aren't really infinite possibilities, but there are kind of infinite possibilities. For instance, the age-old example of walking down a street and then there's a fork in the road, and hey, now you got two universes, doesn't make sense, because there's reasons why you were going one way. If you turn right, there's a reason for it. You may not understand all the variables, but there are no random choices. People don't just decide randomly to be like, I'm gonna go this way. Because even if it's just the weather, even if it's just that one way's a dark alley, or if it's and you don't want to go that way, or you got to get to your job that's to the right, there's a reason you're going to the right, and there is no scenario in which you ever would have gone to the left. So that's not two universes, it's still only the one universe. But there are things in the universe which are random, but they just happen on very small scales. But just because something is small doesn't mean it can't have far-reaching implications. Like solar flares, for instance, can completely destabilize power grids. And for all we know, a solar flare could easily be the result of a chain reaction in the movement of a single atomic particle over the course of thousands of years. So there are these little things which could have very far-reaching implications that will result in splits in the timeline, but they're not going to be as frequent as this idea that every decision you're faced with becomes a new reality. But even then, within that much smaller scope of infinity, it's still infinity. So the multiverse would still be an infinite set of possibilities, especially when you consider the fact that the time frame of the universe itself is a relative variable. For instance, the Big Bang happened, but when the Big Bang happened is variable. So the Big Bang could have happened exactly the same way, and everything which followed it unfolded the exact same way, but it happened maybe 5 minutes later, or 10 minutes later, or 20 minutes later, or 1,000 years later, or maybe it happened 20 minutes before the one we exist in. So in this way, not only are there infinite possible universes within the even more limited scope of possible universes, but there's also an infinite number of universes which exist that are simply staggered an infinitely small amount of time. So the universe, in another reality, the Earth is long since gone, and in a different reality, it hasn't yet come to be, but it will. But that's a tangent, and I'm sorry. But I think I covered what I was getting at with multiversal conservation of energy. I hope.